What's up YouTube, it's Matthew here and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about when to know when it's not a deal. All right, you all, I know I've been getting some questions about that from you all on whether this is a deal, whether that is a deal, and there's some common threads among those questions that I want to bring up in this video. So hopefully you all find this very instructional. I'm going to talk about 10 indicators when you know it's not a deal at all, either from the seller or from the property itself, when to move on and start talking to other leads in your wholesaling real estate business. Be sure to like this video, you all, subscribe, comment down below if you want to see a video on when you know it's a deal. What are some top indicators when you know for sure this is a deal? All right, you all. And then another thing that I want to mention before starting this video is that this video is only talking about strictly wholesaling, assigning contracts. All right, you all. There are creative ways to do things in this business, to work with leads, sub-2, seller financing, lease options, lease wraps, all that jazz, but I'm only strictly talking about assigning contracts. All right, you all. So when to know when it's not a deal. So the most obvious reason when you know it's not a deal, if the seller says no, if they hung up on you, if they said don't call me again, if they cuss at you or something like that. I recently I did a little bit of a text campaign and I got a really harsh text message from someone just using all creative words to tell me to take them off of their list and different things like that. So obviously I know that's not a lead. And I think some newbies, new wholesalers, they feel like just because someone responded, that's a lead. No, it's not a lead. If someone says no, even though it's in a good area or the area that you want to wholesale, it's not a lead. Just move on. All right, you all? The next reason why I would say it's not a lead is because of the price. So if you're talking with the seller, everything seems fine, and then you guys start talking about the price and they name a price that's too high or at market value, it's most likely not a deal, especially when they start quoting the Zillow estimate price, what the county says it is, what the insurance says it is, or if they start quoting how much they pay for property taxes. Those are just telltale signs for me. Telltale signs? Those are just telltale signs? Those are just signs for me indicating that this seller is not a lead. This seller is not that motivated to sell at a discount, at least. And so I always recommend, why haven't you put this on the market then? If you want a price like that, even though the property may need some updating or repairs. So usually if they're just very delusional about the price, I know it's not a lead and I just go on to the next thing. All right, I just go on to my next lead. So the third reason why I would say when you know it's not a lead is if they ask for proof of funds. Now, I don't know, maybe you close the deal with someone asking for proof of funds, but usually when they do that, it's just not a deal. Okay, you all? I have never closed any deals with someone asking for proof of funds. And honestly, I don't really get a lot of that, but I have been getting questions from you all through Instagram, through the comments, saying, okay, how do I provide a proof of funds? How do I do this? And just to me, like when a seller is asking for that, they are not motivated to sell their property, because if they want you to do all these things, they're not willing to trade basically their equity with time, So usually I just move on if they're asking for proof of funds and me to do all these things. The fourth way that you will know that it's not a lead is when the seller just keeps on talking and about their life story, about the different things happening in current events, but they never really talk about the house or selling it. And I know as beginner wholesalers, because I was there too, let's say you're cold calling or you get a call from your postcard and you're on a call with someone and you guys are just chatting it away and it's 30 minutes, 45 minutes, even an hour just with one person. And you feel like it's a lead. You're like, wow, someone is finally talking to me. You think it's a lead. But in reality, it's not a lead, and you should be moving on to get closer to someone who's actually motivated, and you're wasting time with that lead. So make sure you all really filter through those lists of people that are just there to talk, but this is a business. You kind of have to move on. Yes, their story is good, but hey, you're working, you're on the clock, and you need to get to people who are actually motivated to sell. So the fifth other indicator I would say when it's not a deal is when the seller is constantly or persistently asking for a deposit in order to sign the contract. And I know I've been getting some DMs about that in specific, but with that particular reason, it's just that, fine, if they want an EMD, what I like to say is, hey, we close on all our properties, especially if I know the numbers are good and everything works out and I know I'm going to close on this deal for sure. I just let them know, hey, my investors bring in the funds and they'll bring in the deposit over at the title company after we get everything signed and squared off. And then the deposit will be at the title company. And usually they're fine with the answer and then I'll ask about it again. But sometimes if they're persistently asking for it, if it's a really low amount, give it. But usually those people are not as motivated as you think you are. So if you get those type of leads, just be careful with those, and you may have to move on to your other leads. Sixth indicator I would say when it's not a deal is if you're dealing with a savvy investor, right? So obviously you all are going over absentee owners. So a lot of times those owners are investors. They have multiple properties around the area. When I see an investor has 50 or 60 rentals around the area, most likely I just move on, because this person is just trying to build up more rentals, especially if they're buying properties around the area. I just put them on as a cash buyer. So you all just be careful with that, and they know their numbers. If they want to sell at a discount, why would they need you for it, right? They're an investor. They're already well trained in this arena. They can sell it off to one of their buddies. They can put it on the market. They can do a little bit of cleanup and make good money doing that. So usually when they're a savvy investor, they're usually not as motivated as other sort of sellers. So the seventh indicator I would say when it's not really a deal or you should be cautious of is if the properties are already on the market with the realtor, because usually they already have a signed contract with the realtor. And a lot of realtors don't really know about wholesaling or understand it, or they're very hesitant to working with wholesalers. So just make sure you prep the realtor to make sure they know and you and the seller knows what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish with the deal. All right, you all. Honestly, I just stay away from them because they're already under a binding agreement with another person, with another company. And so it's like working with another wholesaler, right? It's like, okay, yeah, I can work with another wholesaler, but I don't know if they're open to JVing or something like that. So just be wary and just be a little bit careful with those type of leads. So the eighth indicator I would say are sellers that are very delusional about the repairs needed on the property. I recently went to a property. I thought I had a deal, but the floors were sinking in so many different ways. The property was just really messed up, and I was just saying, hey, to fix these floors, it would cost like 20 grand. And they were like, what? Nah, nothing like that. And they wouldn't budge on their price or anything like that. They were just very unfortunately, people were actually living in that property with those issues, and there was mold and water damage in the property and different things like that. And so when someone's just really out of it and they don't understand the damage or the extent of repairs on their property, you have to move on to your other leads. All right, you all, you cannot convince someone to sell their property or convince them that their property is like super horrible. Yes, you can question them, but once again, you all, you're not trying to have someone sell the property. You're just trying to solve their problem. And if they can't see a problem to be solved, then you can't be a problem solver, so it doesn't work out. So the ninth indicator I would say is that be cautious of properties that are in foreclosure, right? You can go after pre-foreclosures, but don't really go after foreclosures. You can close on those properties like yourself, and then you can fix it or do whatever and then put it back on the market. But usually for strict wholesaling, like we're talking about, be cautious of dealing with foreclosed houses. All right, you all? So the 10th indicator is actually talking about things to watch out for when you're wholesaling property, or things to consider when you're coming across a property or a seller. One thing to consider or to understand is mobile homes, manufactured homes, and trailers. All right, you all? When you're trying to wholesale those, understand your market. Those properties in most markets do not appreciate in value, right? And so you all don't value a manufactured home the same as a regular home, all right, you all? You're mostly looking at the land value of the property and the location of the property. The building itself, it doesn't appreciate. Yes, it doesn't jack up the price as much as another house does. So be careful with that, you all. Another thing I want you all to consider are leads that say that, hey, I'll sell in a year or something like that, or I'm gonna sell in 2 years. If they're giving that long of a timeline, yes, you can put them in like a yearly follow-up sequence, but usually those leads are not motivated, so don't bank on them, don't count on them. You know, you can move on from those type of leads too. And just make sure to say, if you really want to know if they're motivated and they say, oh, not in another year or two, you can say, hey, do you mind if I follow up with you in like a month or two, and see what they say. If they say yes, go ahead, follow up with them. But if not, you can move on. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe, comment down below, and like this video. And I'll talk to you all later. Project X, September 22nd, coming soon.